G'day, it's Rob here again. You would have seen in my previous videos where I've done up this old wrong fu metal cutting bandsaw that I got cheap, and yeah, it turned out good. She's a great old machine. It's fantastic for cutting steel, and you know, for the money you couldn't go wrong. Anyway, I did it all up and I showed you a few mods I did in the previous couple of videos. And the only thing that was left to sort of work on it was the using the thing in the vertical position, and the table that comes with it, the pressed out metal tin basically table that comes with it, is probably about as crappy as they could have possibly made it. It's pretty terrible, and most of the time I'll be using this thing in the horizontal position, so it'd only be very rarely I'd really want to use it in the vertical position. And I've got a wood cutting bandsaw that I use for timber, and you know, I had thought about getting rid of that originally and maybe just using this for both, but I really don't think these are good enough for the sort of work that you'd want to do with a wood bandsaw, where you're going to be ripping down lengths, you know, reducing thickness on timber, and you know, I use a lot of salvage timber, so I couldn't really see that was going to be a great setup. So I thought, well, you know, the vertical position is good, but then you've got to put this plate on every time you want to use it, and add screws and bolts, and it's a lot of mucking around, and I just thought, that's not on. So I looked through my scrap heap and I thought, well, all you really want for the times you want to, say, cut a bit of hydraulic hose, or you know, do some small stuff, is just basically have a small plate on there. And I have seen people do this in their modifications, so this is nothing new. I'm basically just picking up on their idea, and so I thought all I want is a small metal plate to go on there, so that when it's in the down position, the metal plate will just drop down alongside of the area by the vice jaws. So I went from a scrap heap and I got some 5mm thick steel plate, and I made up this little plate which will go on, and once it's on, it will, when the saw is in the down position, it will clear the vice area of the base, and it also won't stick out too far that's going to gouge you or anything when you're using the machine. So yeah, a simple project. So I'll show you how it fits on here, and I'll show you the clearance, and I'll give you the measurements, and if anyone's interested they can make one up. And I've also got another down the track idea regarding this, and I'll tell you what that is a bit later. But anyway, I'll put it on for now, and you can see how it fits. Okay, here she is, and you can see it comes in quite neatly. This plate I had actually already had a bolt hole in there, so I just utilised that, but you could just machine a keyhole in it like I've done, and I basically used the bandsaw to cut the slot, cut the end off, cut it to size, and I used my lathe to mill the keyhole. And I mean, I do all my milling on my little lathe. I don't have a mill. I'm not rich. I'm struggling for a room in the shed. So basically everything gets done on the lathe as far as milling's concerned, and yeah, it does a good enough job for these sort of things. So there you go, she's on. She's good and rigid. It's never going to move. And you haven't got brackets and stuff around the place, and I'll show you how it goes for clearance. Okay, we'll swing down the arm and you can see how it goes. It just fits in there quite nicely. Doesn't come out too far, and the angle here just matches the angle of the base. You've got room to do a bit of adjustment. I can bring this in and out with the clamp for the guide travel. So yeah, quite handy, big enough to do you know, small jobs on, and also as it comes out this way rather than that way. I mean, you could go further, I suppose, if you wanted to sort of cut across and come up this way, but I just left it like this because most of the time, if you're right-handed like I am, you're going to be resting the stuff on the right hand side of the plate when you're working on it anyway, so and you don't need a huge area just to do a bit of hose or something like that, so yeah, it's good enough, and it's good and solid. And for the odd occasion when you want to use the thing in the vertical position, it's going to be good. So there you go, that's my latest idea. It's the last thing I'll be doing on this thing. That's it. Finito. Oh, well hang on, maybe not. There is one other thing I had considered, so I'll show you that in the next part of this video. Right, so what's the great idea? Well, originally when I looked at this whole system, I would have liked to have had something that was quick detachable, you know, quick to put on, quick to take off, and you could have sort of a dovetail arrangement that a plate would clip onto, but then you were going to run into depth problems, going to be too much thickness, it's going to cut down sort of the available space. So I went this way, thinking, well, I'll just leave it on permanently. But what you could do with this, it's quite feasible. You could actually mill, this is 5mm thick, but you could mill down, mill a lip all the way around these three sides. And you could actually cut out a plate, a bigger plate, and cut that section out of this side of it with a corresponding milled lip facing downwards, so that basically it would just slide on like that, and then click on this end here, and then just have a couple of grub screws or something underneath to either pressure lock it on there, or you could even tap straight through into the plate. There's enough thickness for the thread. So yeah, you could have a slide on additional section, which would give you a lot more working room. So maybe down the track I'll do that. For now this will do. But it's a, yeah, it's a consideration and something to think about. Okay, I'll show you the measurements now. Stay tuned. Okay, here you go. Now, I don't know how well this is going to come up as far as the figures are concerned, but anyway, I'll tell you what they are. The holes in here are both quarter imperial, because the screws are quarter Whitworth. Well, you reuse the original screws, they had enough thread there, no problem. And the plate is 135 by 75 that I use, but you could of course vary it a bit if you wanted to. This is just how I did it. It's 95 from the slit to the corner. It's 5 from the slit to the edge of the angle. It's 55, this is all metric or millimetres, it's 55mm from there to there. It's 18mm in from the edge to that first hole here. Both holes come in from this edge 25mm, and this hole here is 75mm in from the edge. So that's all of it. And yeah, I did these cuts on the saw. The hole was already there, but I would have just used a drill anyway to do it, and then just milled the end of the sort of keyhole into it for the blade to have a bit of clearance for purging any rubbish away. So there you have it, folks. Yeah, useful I think, and pretty easy to make. So okay, see you next time. Cheers.